And just like that, all of a sudden, Senate Democrats are feeling much better about their chances in November. Because of this year's map, it has been viewed as a long shot for Democrats to hold on to their slim majority. But now, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says not only will they hold on to the majority, he thinks they could even expand it. Just take a look at the newest polls from the Cook Political Report, and you can see why. Democratic Senate candidates are running strong in key swing states. So let's discuss. Joining me tonight, former Democratic Congressman Conor Lamb of Pennsylvania and former Republican Congressman Carlos Curbelo of Florida. Conor, of course, Chuck Schumer is optimistic. He's got to be. It is his job. But do you share his optimism?
I do. I mean, we've seen a reversal of fortune in the last 30 days, unlike anything I can remember that fast. I think largely because Vice President Harris is exciting young people and other voters who were just sitting on the sidelines before. And now that they're getting engaged, they're showing up in polls for Senate candidates, for the presidential, for congressional candidates. And it's just reinvigorating our party because earlier these people were ignoring pollsters or saying that they were disengaged. And that kind of enthusiasm is infectious and it's starting to spread.
Carlos, what do you think? How would you feel if you were on the ballot during this race as a Republican and you're watching Donald Trump's press conferences? How would you feel about what's coming this November?
Well, I just think it's remarkable what Conor just highlighted, how much the script has flipped here in the last few weeks. I mean, it was Democrats just a few weeks ago worried about President Biden being a drag on them, about ruining their chances to take back the House, making it very difficult for them to hold on to the Senate. And now it's just a complete opposite, Steph. And it reminds me of, for example, when I ran in 2018, what Republicans are doing now, begging Donald Trump to stay on message, begging him to talk about inflation, immigration, the issues that could help Republicans. But they're dealing with someone who won't listen, who only pays attention to his own instincts, his own impulses. And clearly what he wants to do is launch personal attacks, ramble through some of these speeches. I mean, this is someone who just a few weeks ago had the opportunity to unite the country. There was a lot of sympathy for him after that horrible assassination attempt, and he has squandered all of that goodwill.
Conor, both candidates are flooding your state, Pennsylvania, with ads and tons of money. More money has been spent there than any other swing state. What do people in PA want to hear right now? What are they telling you?
I think people are feeling a little bit overwhelmed, and so they're not necessarily happy to see $100 million worth of ads. I can tell you that for sure. What's interesting is a lot of the focus from the GOP side is on Vice President Harris. In other words, it's negative advertising using her words and messages, nothing positive about Trump, because there's not much to say. I think people are sick of him, and he's annoying at this point. I mean, his press conference today was a perfect example. It's the same old lines over and over and over again. And while he was new in 2016 and people in Pennsylvania thought he was going to shake things up, now, you know, the whole thing is tired. And so the more money they spend, they're kind of in a tough spot because they can't really use his act so much anymore. They have to try to go negative on her. And I think that might backfire because every ad they run, they just remind the voters that Vice President Harris comes across as 20 years younger than him. And that seems to be what people want.
Well, let's talk about the words she's using and what she's saying, because the New York Times points out that Harris and Walz are leaning into language that's usually used by Republicans, talking about liberties and freedoms and telling leaders to mind their business when it comes to reproductive freedom. What do you think of that strategy? I mean, small government, don't tread on me. Those are some classic Republican ideas. Carlos?
Well, Steph, yeah, I mean, really, this is a big role reversal here, and it's because Republicans who for a long time were about limited government, about keeping government out of the way, out of the people's homes, out of their bedrooms. Now it's Republicans really pushing intrusive policies, regardless of the issue. But in pursuit of winning the culture wars, Republicans have really tried to impose their way of seeing the world on the American people. And now it's Democrats saying, hey, you get government out of the way because you're really now imposing your views. So it's just we're living through a major political transition in our country, a major realignment. What one party used to stand for, now the other party's parroting. And by the way, the other transition is that Pennsylvania is the new Florida. Sorry, Connor, this is what it's like to live in the #1 swing state. The first thing you see when you wake up is a political ad, and it's the last thing you see before you go to sleep. Too bad. Deal with it. Better you than us.
Yeah, and people across that state think, what a colossal waste of money. Connor, what do you think about this? Suddenly, we're hearing things about small government, mind your own business, words like freedom and liberty. Those are Republican words, or have been.
That's right. It's a good start. I think I would just keep encouraging the campaign not to forget that inflation hasn't gone away, and the economic concerns of people in the state have not gone away. And where the Democratic Party has always been the strongest is where we're able to maintain a focus on, just the basic dream that each family has to try to save a little bit and get ahead. And so with these rising prices, not just at the grocery store, but on bigger ticket items like insurance or the cost of college education, we need to hear from Vice President Harris on that. She has a record. She has a good story to tell. And I know she has a lot of sympathy for the kind of families that are going through this kind of thing. Because unlike Donald Trump, she wasn't born with a silver spoon in her mouth, and neither was Tim Walz. They've lived the experience of, working hard to get ahead. And I'd like to hear them talking about that just a little bit more.
I think we're going to hear her talking about that a lot more as soon as tomorrow, especially as it relates to affordability, trying to buy a home, trying to get by and potentially thrive and maybe even pursue the American dream. Connor, Carlos, great to have you here. I appreciate it. When we return, you've got to hear this story, okay? Pay attention to this. Former Senator Ben Sasse had a short stint, hope you didn't forget about it, running the University of Florida. Remember, he left office, went down to Florida, and took over a university. What the student newspaper just uncovered about his brief time in charge. The editor-in-chief joins us when the 11th hour continues.